Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes!
Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
What up? Yes,
How we
it's
doing?
Sunday morning. Yes, it's Father's Day. But I hate to say I told you so. But I told you so. They're
They are
back,
back.
man. It's that June summer Phillies season that we've all kind of been waiting for. Man, is it back? But Eric, good to touch base with you, man. How we doing today?
Oh, fantastic. Like you said, we're back. Going for the sweep today. Father's Day, beautiful day out. I don't know if it gets much better than this.
Zach Wheeler on the hill today. Gonna try to take care of that.
Yep. I think this is a good situation for him. I mean, he's been pitching well. This is not a good lineup. So I'm thinking Wheeler is going to feast on this lineup. Now watch, I hope I'm not wrong here. I hope I didn't jinx him, but I think, there's a potential for a really solid game here, which we kind of need after going through every single reliever with the exception of Dylan Covey yesterday. So need Wheeler to go like seven strong ones there, and I feel pretty good.
But they were impressive yesterday.
Bullpen was great.
Bullpen was great, and the fact that you call up a guy from AAA, a guy who's kind of like wavered back and forth between the majors and AAA, but man, he came in, and I get this feeling like if he doesn't get hit in the hand in the fourth, he probably goes a little bit further. Maybe they don't use as many guys in the bullpen. That was just super impressive yesterday.
Yeah, he looked really good. Pitch count was low too. He was going through that lineup pretty quickly there. I think you're totally right. I think the hand kind of scared them, so they just wanted to make sure he was okay with that. But I mean, I don't think you could ask for much more from Christopher Sanchez in that case. I mean, he looked really good. The bullpen has looked phenomenal. I mean, even with Sir Anthony going down, you got guys like Andrew Vasquez and Jeff Hoffman who have just been like not lights out, but like really, really impressive for their roles. Like not even the back four guys that we're like used to talking about here. It's just been an impressive.
Just guys that have been taking care of business, just going in and just kind of taking care of business and taking care of whatever the needs are at that moment. Just got it. I'm just impressed. They're 12 out of the last 14. Just really impressive in this month of June. It's just been wild, man. Since and to be honest, the first in the month of June, they lose the first two. They lose the last game against the Mets. They lose the first game against the Nats. But God, then they rip off 7 straight. Then they lose one to the Dodgers. They come back. And they lose the opener in Arizona. But other than that, man, it's been games that they've been battling too.
Yeah, exactly. And even the losses, like, losing one to the Dodgers isn't bad. I mean, that's going to happen. They're a good team. Losing one to Arizona isn't bad. They're a good team. And honestly, it's one of those things where, even in the loss to Arizona, JT hits for the cycle. Like there's something exciting, kind of going on in each game now. So it's just been fun to watch because as you said, like that beginning of June, the getting swept by the Mets and then that comeback loss to the Nationals, that was like, I feel like maybe like the low point of the season. I just felt like, man, like what are we doing here? And then, you spin off a couple more wins there, beat some, take care of business against the Nationals, take care of business against the Tigers, and then just kind of keep this thing rolling. And now, then we see a series win against LA, a series win against Arizona, two good teams. So, it's kind of seeing what we're stacking up against. And it's been impressive. Five
straight series wins.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. With
Yeah,
with a win yesterday, that solidified the win against Oakland. So yeah, I mean, it's just been impressive. Everyone's clicking. Rotation's been solid for the most part, except for that fifth spot, but we can get into that later. Bullpen, as we said, has been great, and the offense has been clicking too. I mean, you're kind of getting contributions from everyone, pretty much except for Josh Harrison, but I don't know why he's getting so much time.
Well,
but
and that's something I want to talk to you about, because this is something that came up. The one game where I think it was the first game in Oakland where Josh Harrison gets the start over Stott at second base, and I'm looking at the numbers and I'm going, he's not been bad. Like, he's been good against lefties. Like, he, to me, is a guy that is at a spot early on in his career where you really don't need to worry about lefty righty line, like the lineups. He's a guy that you would just plug and play in that lineup every day. I just didn't understand that from kind of any perspective, because it's not like you're like looking for a spot to like give him some rest. It was like almost like overthinking, like the analytics kind of took over, put that part of the conversation for a minute.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, Stott is hitting, I think, over 300 against lefties on the year, if I'm not mistaken. I was seeing a stat about that the other day. So Stott isn't going to hurt you against lefties. We saw it yesterday. I think twice they intentionally walked someone yesterday to pitch to Stott, and both times he made them pay. One was a sac fly, but whatever. Like, that's what you got to do to get the run across, especially in extras. But I don't understand the sense in sitting Stott against lefties, because he hits righties, he hits lefties. He's just hitting right now. I could see if he was in a funk and, you want to get him, some rest or give him a day to clear his head or whatever. So the only thing I could think of is they're just trying to get Josh Harrison at bats, because he's not been, he hasn't been playing much. And again, it's I know it's tough to come off the bench. I know it's tough to, not see a lot of pitching and just come in and do well. But he has just been like really unimpressive this year. I mean, you look at other guys who have been kind of in similar situations. Like Cody Clemens wasn't getting a ton of at bats in the beginning of the year, but when he was making them count. And Harrison's just not doing that. And I don't know, why was he in right field yesterday?
Because Castellanos.
I know. I understand Castellanos was sick.
He was
and
sick.
I understand they pinch hit him for Clemens to get the matchup, but like he's not. I don't know the last time he's played right field. I know he's played left field. I think he played a couple times last year, but just totally misplayed that ball. He's just not endearing himself right now. Hopefully I'm wrong, and hopefully he'll maybe turn it around. Or I think what's going to happen is, we're going to see a roster move at some point. And, you can't do anything with Clemens because he hasn't done anything to play his way off the roster.
Right.
You're not going to do anything with Sosa because they do like his defense, and he's real versatile in there. He hasn't been hitting really, but you can kind of, he made that nice play yesterday. He's going to be a good defender. So it's just, I don't know what to do there.
It's almost like you wonder if that's the guy that, that they manipulate when they bring up Derek Hall, because that move is kind of inevitable, that when he gets healthy, as good as Cody Clemens is playing, you get a better defensive player at first base. You're going to get more offensive pop at first base that maybe Josh Harrison doesn't give you nearly as much as you think he was giving you. And maybe Cody Clemens, because he did play some outfield in Detroit last year. I don't know. Josh Harrison is a guy that kind of puzzles me, because you would think, based on his baseball career, that he'd be more productive. He's just, for whatever reason, this year he's just not.
Yeah, and again, like we said a couple minutes ago, it's tough. I understand, it's tough to not see a lot of pitching and then just come in kind of cold and be good. And I don't expect him to be, a 300 hitter, but just like he'll hit like a meaningless single every now and then. I'm like, all right, maybe this is what he needs to like wake up. And then when it comes time for him to actually do something, he doesn't. I mean, again, it is what it is, but luckily it's one of our bench guys, and we kind of don't necessarily need to put him in that much. And again, yesterday against the A's and 2 games against the A's, he gets in. So if you're going to, put him in, I guess this is the time to do it. But I just don't want to see him hurting the team against good teams.
No, yeah, you're right. And especially, these next 2 series coming up, right? They're going to come home and play the Braves and the Mets. Those are going to be games that you're going to have to capitalize on to be able to make up some ground in the standings. And just to go back to Stott for a second, right? His stats in the last 30 games, batting .333, he's got an OBP of .380. He's slugging .530. He's got 15 RBIs, 5 home runs, 2 triples. He's got 24 multi-hit games this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's just
Like,
having like a great year.
I know that position is kind of loaded in the National League, but like that's a guy that you could put on the fringes of like justifying an all-star vote.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so, but like you said, it's really deep, and especially with Arias on the Marlins, it's just like he's gonna. I don't see a way he doesn't get it. It's not fair if he doesn't, considering he's like has a chance to hit 400 on the year. But Stott's like he's been super impressive this year. And it started with last year, right? Like Girardi didn't play him; he stunk because he wasn't getting the at bats, and then Thompson comes in, starts playing him, and he starts showing that he can do it. I think he got a little tired by the end of last year. That's probably the longest he's played, but he's come out this year, and the thing is, he's hit all over in the lineup too. Like anything that they're asking him to do, he's doing it, and he's being productive doing it. So he's been really, really impressive this year. So it's great to see that, especially now that Turner's starting to heat up. We could have that nice little middle infield duo there, really, really potent.
Yeah, you're starting to see, Trey Turner in the last 14 games really kind of turn it on. And I'm sure it's no surprise the connection between the team winning and him being a more productive, batter in the lineup. And, their record in, they're 10-4 in those in those 14 games. God, it's just you almost want to tell people, like, you got to tell people and remind them to pump the brakes, that like this is a long season. Like you cannot look at the first, because I saw there was some stuff on social media, was the Trey Turner deal a bad deal? Would you undo it? Like all this stuff. And I'm going, one, he's a guy who traditionally does start slow, kind of like Schwarber. Two, like, look at the back of his baseball card. Like, at some point, all that stuff levels out. He's going to have, multiple solid months where by the end of this year, I guarantee you, those are going to be like the ice cold takes of like the very beginning of the season, and I think the thing that I love about the stat line in those 14 games from Trey Turner, right? 6 walks and 5 stolen bases. So you're starting to see that number pick up, which I think, and I don't know why, maybe he's hesitant to do it earlier on in the season, but to see him now not only work at bats, get on base without, getting a hit, but then also stealing bases, it's a good avenue into what the rest of the season could be.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that people were sitting there judging an 11-year deal off of 2 months in a season was just mind-bogglingly dumb.
Listen, to keep it simple.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to think of a nicer way to say it, but I don't have a nicer way to say it. It was just straight up dumb. He again, you said look at the back of his baseball card, right? I mean, he's has enough time in the league where he's eventually going to be better, right? I think we kind of saw something similar with Castellanos last year. Like, okay, he had a down year, but what he's capable of doing, right? He's not going to be terrible for all 5 years of his contract. Turner wasn't going to be terrible for all 11 years of his contract, right? You said he's a slower starter in April and May. I wrote something about this the other day. His OPS in April and May is under 8, right? Which, and I mean, honestly, it's not bad overall. This April and May were particularly bad for him. But then after that, his OPS doesn't get below like 826 or something like that over his career for the rest of the season. I'm like, that is an all-star almost every single year. So yeah, people need to pump the brakes and just chill with Trey Turner because he's going to be fine. And we're seeing it now, right? I mean, he's only hitting, 250 something, but that's because he was down at 230 something at one point. He's starting to hit out of it. He's probably not going to hit 300 this year, right? But at the same time, he's being productive. You get him on base, he's going to make things happen. So yeah, I'm just like, I couldn't believe I was reading what I was reading when people were like, oh, is this a bad deal? I'm like, guys, it's freaking May in the first year of his contract. Like, come on.
It just, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? And to look at some of the the stats in June, right? Turner's hitting 313 in June. Schwarber's hitting 234, which is honestly better.
Average-wise, good for him. Yeah.
Better than what he was, but he's got 5 home runs.
Yep.
Castellanos is tearing it up, right? He's hitting 429. Stott's hitting 359, and Real Muto's hitting 275. Like they're getting on base, they're scoring more runs. This team has too much talent in that lineup that they just needed to knock the dust off. And like, let's not forget, they played as far as you can play into a season. So the off season was really short. So it's not surprising me that they had a slow start. But the other guy that's been really impressive in his last 4 or 5 starts is Suarez.
Yeah, he's been so good. And his first 2 starts weren't great, but I think that was kind of to be expected because he didn't have a spring training, right? He had his few rehab appearances, and none of them were particularly long. So he had basically he did not have that many innings coming into it. But since his last 3 starts, 20 innings, 2 earned runs, 18 Ks. I mean, he's been like an anchor in this bullpen, and I think that's what you can expect from him. Like, he's not going to go out there and always throw a shutout. Or 7 innings, 1 run, but he's reliable, right? He's going to give you, probably 5 or 6 innings every time out. He may give up 3 or 4 runs, but you're going to get innings out of him. And more times than not, he's going to be really good. I love Ranger, and him being back is going to help this, because the rotation was struggling really up until 2 weeks ago, maybe. Walker's turned it around, looked a lot better. Wheeler, same thing. Nola, we talked about it pre-show, but it hasn't been terrible. He gives up that home run, he has that 1 bad inning, and his line looks much, much worse than it actually is the way he's pitching. He's getting a lot of strikeouts. His knuckle curve has looked really good. His velocity has been staying up there later in the game as opposed to earlier in the year. So it's like, I almost feel like he's right there, and he's going to be good. He's going to turn that corner, but he just cannot avoid that big inning. We saw it the other day in Arizona, right, where he's pitching well. Then the 3rd inning, he starts to unravel, gives it that 3-run shot, and now his line shot, right? He gave up 4 runs. He still goes 6 2/3, and I think had 7 or 8 strikeouts. But and his stuff looked good. I'm just like, oh, it's so frustrating because he's so close.
It's the kind of thing where, like, you have to watch the game.
Yeah,
he is a guy that you cannot just open up the newspaper, look at the stat line, and say, oh God, he looks like shit. That's a guy that you have to watch the game, and but that 1 inning is what kills him. And I can't, from my mind, I can't kind of wrap my head around, like, how do we get, because he's on a contract, right? So he's trying to put on his best show. How are we still this far into his career still giving up that one inning, that one kill shot that in the game in Arizona, right? That home run gives up a lead that they had basically maintained. They were kind of cruising up until that point, and you thought, like, all right, if they get a couple more runs, they're going to kind of run away with this game. Let the back end of the bullpen take care of it. And then he gives up that one, the home run to, was it Marte maybe?
Yeah, I think it was Marte. Yeah.
And, then you spend the rest of the game trying to battle back. And it's just like, you don't need to put yourself in a position to do that. But I also, to talk about, Noel for a second, also saw the stat line from Matt Gelb. Right, he's allowed a home run in 11 straight starts.
Yeah,
and it's
the person ahead of him, Randy Wolf.
It is.
I saw that same stat, and I'm like, wow, that's a throwback there. So that was pretty impressive. But
12 straight starts in the 2000 season.
Yeah,
and I'm just going like that. It's just like, damn, like if he could just eliminate that one part, his stat line would look so much better. The confidence that the team would have would be so much higher. I don't know. I just want him to be better.
Yeah, I agree. And a stat I saw after his last start was something along the lines of his how hitters are hitting against him when there's men on base versus when the bases are empty. When the bases are empty, I think opponents have like a 5-something OPS, so very low. Okay. Like, he's pitching really well there. When there's runners on base, it's like over an 800 OPS. So that's a huge difference. So he's obviously struggling out of the stretch right now.
Right.
So that's something I think, like, knowing that, hopefully that's something that they can kind of work on a little bit. Because he's looked really good with the bases empty, right? Like he had that third inning, and I believe the inning after that, he either struck out the sides or struck out like 2 of the 3 batters in the next inning. So it's like when the bases are empty, he looks really good, but then a guy gets on, and I don't know if he's worrying too much about him. He used to slow things down when there were runners on base, and now he can't do
clock.
that.
Yeah.
So, and he made comments earlier in the season about him struggling with the pitch clock a little bit. So I think this is still an adjustment for him.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's a connection between the two of those things, because you're right. In seasons past, when the pitch clock wasn't a factor, guys would get on base. He would slow down, take his time, and it would allow him to kind of settle into a spot. And now he doesn't have that at all. He doesn't have the ability to be able to. He's got to kind of almost ramp it up, and it's like that. Having not had to do that your entire life, and then having to now make that adjustment in one off season, I'm not surprised that there's not a huge connection between his stats with guys on base and not on base.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it. So hopefully it's something he can work out, because it's killing what his chance at. It's not, obviously he's still going to get a good contract, because again, you look at the back of his baseball card, his numbers are pretty consistent throughout his whole career, right? He's not going to be a sub-3 ERA pitcher, but he's going to give you innings. He's pitched over 200 innings, I think, the last 2 or 3 seasons, and then like 180 the ones before that or something. So he's going to give you innings. He's going to give you strikeouts. It's just a matter of limiting that big inning. And that's kind of been something, we've seen from him his whole career. So it's not really surprising, but it seems to be hurting us more this year than in years past.
I agree. But what are your thoughts on the 5th starter? Because you mentioned that, kind of pre-show. So the stat line on the 5th starting on the games that the 5th starter pitches.
I think yesterday was their 3rd win in one of those games. I think going into the last one, I think they were like 2-10 or something like that. I think now, I think yesterday was like their 3rd win of the season in that spot. So bad.
So bad. So what can Christopher Sanchez be that guy, or do you bring up one of your young guys? Like that's the thing that I see. You see all around Major League Baseball. You see teams bringing up, like they're constantly bringing up young guys, right? You saw earlier this week, the Dodgers bring up the kid
Dodgers,
straight from Double-A, and is throwing a no-hitter into the through the 6th inning. The Braves are constantly bringing up young guys. It just seems like this team is so hesitant to bring up these young guys, and not that I'm saying like bring them up and throw them to the wolves, but like if you're seeing that your team, like let's be honest. All the analytical stats that you have, how do you not address that 5th starter spot when you see that your team, like that's not an analytical stat. That's just like baseline in your face. You're basically giving away games. And
it's like 20% of your games, right? I mean, every 5th day, it's like 20% of your games there. So it's pretty significant.
Like McGeary, like Abel, like. And I know that they were relying on Painter, right? And Painter gets hurt, and now Painter is basically like in a glass box. But like, you're telling me that there's no one else in your farm system that can be better than Covey? Like, like that's one of those like, what are we doing here?
Well, I think part of what happened was we had those McPhail and Klentak years where player development drafting was just not great all the time. I don't think so. We have a lot of guys who are young, and we have a lot of pitching prospects down there right now. So there's so much of it, but none of them are like quote unquote ready. McGarry's probably the closest. He has such good stuff, and he'll go out there and twirl a gem at Reading. And then I don't know if you saw his stats from, I think he pitched Friday night. He ended up going, I think, only 2 innings because he ended up walking 6 guys. So it's like his control is still just like a major, major question mark. Abel, kind of same thing. Abel's a little bit younger, so I can see why they're a little bit more hesitant with him. I don't think he's polished enough yet, but again, he's got really good stuff. McGarry, I would not be surprised to see them bring up if the Sanchez experiment kind of fails. I read something that the Phillies want to have anyone they bring up throw at least a game or two in AAA before they bring them up, so something to kind of monitor. I don't know about a trade. We're not going to see any trades until another month and a half or whatever, until the end of July, to the deadline, because teams aren't going to want to give up yet. And plus, the NL is really, really tight right now. So you don't, and even the American League too. So you don't really know who's going to be buyers and sellers at this point. Obviously the big names out there are, Shane Bieber was a big one. Who else am I forgetting? But you're going to have to give up a pretty big haul to get these guys, I think. And it's one of those things where, we've been burned on prospects before. And I think we talked about this before, right? With, holding off on trading, Dominic Brown and, Michael Taylor and Kyle Drabeck and those guys, and then finally getting rid of them. But so, prospects are prospects for a reason. And I keep telling myself, don't put all your eggs in one basket with prospects. Painter is the only one I think should be untouchable. But even Abel and McGarry, unless you're going to get a franchise altering player, I don't see a reason for trading either of those guys yet.
No, I'm there with you, but I also think you think about the guys that we've held on to too long, and then their value ends up being nothing. You know, if you're going to get a guy that's going to push you over the edge, you're not going to go back and remember that prospect. You're going to remember when you pull that T-shirt, that sweatshirt, that hat, that with the World Series, trophy on it. You're not going to remember the guys that you traded to get there. Right. So it's it is a double-edged sword, because it's you don't want to mortgage the future for a shot at something now, but also you want to make sure that if you're in this era of this team where you've got a lot of young guys that are in their prime and they're ready to kind of make a move, right? You want to maybe not be as hesitant to push a move over the top. So it's it's one of those, it depends on what it is.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has to do with where we stand at the trade deadline, right? If we're making do with what we have, okay, maybe you don't mortgage the farm. But if we're still seeing a situation we just can't find a fifth starter, then this team has the potential if you have a good rotation, and that might be something where they have to look at it too. So,
I saw something floating around about Goldschmidt. That to me could be maybe it's a guy that you could get where you don't have to give up as much. You're still going to have to give up something. But maybe that solidifies first base, where you're not, you're not having the rotation of Alec Boehm, Cody Clemens, Derek Hall. You name the guy, and that's, we talked about this a couple times with how much they're really missing Rhys Hoskins.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's huge. And, Goldschmidt being a right-handed bat too. I looked up his contract situation to see he's not, he would be half of this year and a full year next year. Then he becomes a free agent after the 2024 season. And he's $26 million on the books. So, that's a pretty significant contract to take on when you're already, you're pretty close to that second luxury tax threshold.
Right.
And I know that's something they're trying to avoid. So they'd have to work something out there with someone going to St. Louis. I think it would have to be not a big contract, but they'd have to shed some of that money somewhere or do something. Right. So who knows, they could make something work. I like Goldschmidt, obviously, he solves that first base issue, not just this year, but for next year. I know a lot of people some people want to see it. I shouldn't say a lot, but some people want to see Hoskins back on maybe a short, try it out deal, see how he does. But that kind of then puts that away.
Right.
So he definitely makes the lineup better. It's just a matter of is what the Cardinals asking for worth it, and will ownership want to go over that second luxury tax threshold?
Yeah, and I could foresee a deal that you include one of those pitchers, and how the Cardinals develop pitching prospects. And you could see how that would be something where you would trade a guy like a pitching prospect, and they go there and that would be a guy that would start to shine in St. Louis.
Yep.
And you're going, we sold that for, essentially a year and a half. And
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, but it's a guy that I think you're in a position where all your opportunities are open. So you really have to think about what are you getting it back and how much does that really push you closer to, because the team that you're really going to end up competing with in the NL is the Braves.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everybody else, the D-backs have been playing really well. The Mets kind of are metting right now.
Love to see it.
So, but when I look at the top of the NL, it's like I know the record doesn't put them there, but when I look around at the teams that they're going to compete against, I really think at the end of the day, when everything shakes out, it's going to be them and the Braves.
Yeah. And at that point, it's just going to be, who's deeper. And it stinks we're in the same division because right now, I think we'd be leading the NL Central. We'd be in first place in the NL Central. Because that division is just not great this year. The West is okay. What's that?
I said it's not great at all.
Yeah. Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah. So Milwaukee and Cincinnati. Yeah, are both at the top, but they're 36 and 35.
Okay, so so we'd be we'd be 2 games over them, I guess. So yeah, and then the West I feel like there's a lot more potential out there. Like the Padres haven't. I'm expecting them to go on a hot streak and still be good. There's too many pieces there for them to not be good. So I don't know. I'm still expecting them to maybe make some noise at some point. The Marlins, I think, are going to kind of fall back to earth a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's really, I think Atlanta is the cream of the crop in the NL. So, but they're a good team. It's just going to be, and I think this series starting, I think it's Tuesday. They're off tomorrow. So yeah, Tuesday is a huge series to see where we stand against them. So I'm looking forward to that series a lot.
But listen, to go back to that prospect conversation for a second, because as I'm looking at the statistics. The kid in Cincinnati, De La Cruz, like that to me is like that is a window into like bringing young guys up and see what they have, because he is like electric, super exciting to watch. I think that kind of hesitancy to bring a guy up, you see things like that and you're like, just do it, and see what happens, because best case scenario is that he comes up here and thrives, and then that makes your team deeper at the major league level. Worst case scenario is that he still struggles, and that he's still young enough that you can send him back down. Yeah, and not completely kill his mojo.
Exactly. And actually, St. Louis has a good example of this in Jordan Walker. He started the year on the major league roster, really struggled defensively, started off really hot offensively, and then kind of went into a little funk there. They sent him back down to AAA. I think he was down there for maybe a month or so. They brought him back up, and he's kind of really turned things around. So you can kind of, again, it depends on the player. It depends on, your player development and everything. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility. For some reason, I don't know what it is, but I feel like with pitchers, they're just like more finicky, I guess. Now I didn't look at that guy from LA. I didn't look at his numbers in AA or like, what he was strong with or what his struggles were. But for us, it seems that Abel and McGarry, their biggest thing is just command. They have the stuff is there. It's just once they can get their command down, they have the potential to be really, really good pitchers. So I think that's what the Phillies are a little hesitant about, just kind of fine tuning that command. But, you make a good point. I think McGarry at some point is going to, if Sanchez doesn't pan out, there's not really anyone else, unless you think about Falter again, that is really ready to be there. So you might have to just see what McGarry can do, but we'll see what happens, as we move into, through the rest of June and in July.
Sounds good. Listen, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Drunk Phils fans, because they had something cool go on over the course of the last week and a half. Want to talk about the A's. They're playing the A's right now, but the A's current situation with Major League Baseball. And then want to talk about the K-Lot tailgate with the Bell Smashers. So hold on, we'll be right back, and then we'll talk to you in a little bit.
Von C. Brewing Company is a 20-barrel, 16,000 square foot microbrewery with a 2,500 square foot tasting room, including a spacious outside beer gardens in Norristown, PA, in the heart of Montgomery County. The Von C. family is part of the family that started C. Schmidt and Son Brewing in 1860. Stop in Wednesday through Sunday and taste a variety of draft and 16-ounce cans of originally brewed beer and tell them the Drunk on Broad crew sent you. Von C. Brewing is located at 1210 Stenbridge Street, Suite 300 in Norristown. Cheers.
Team Clicks are the only glasses for real sports fans. With interchangeable arms, you can support all of your favorite teams, or even make and create custom options as well. These die-hard sports fans have realized that sports fans needed something other than face paint to show their love and passion for their teams. Go to teamclicks.com/DOB and show your love for your hometown team.
La Torrance curated collection of men's and women's watches is a perfect investment that lasts for years to come and fits perfectly with your every outfit and style. Our range of classic watches aren't just a great perfect formal and casual accessory, but a time machine that takes you back to memories. Explore our collection of timeless watches that can reflect your taste, personality, and personal style. Our exclusive collection of carefully curated, affordable luxury watches is what you need to make a personalized style statement. You can take pride in your prized possession, handing it over to the next generations as your most loved asset that they can also own and display with the same pride. These high-quality pieces stand the test of time, giving exceptional value and return on your investment. Go to la-touraine.com and use code DOB at checkout and get 10% off.
If you're looking for unique sports apparel, check out Streaker Sports. They've dug deep into the archives and have brought back some incredible defunct team logos and have even created entire defunct league collections. They also have collections paying homage to sports culture, including the Miracle on Ice, Slap Shot, Caddyshack, the Mighty Ducks, and even have a license with Wiffle Ball and USA Hockey. Only for Drunk on Broad listeners, use code BROAD at checkout to get 10% off anything at streakersports.com. Again, that's 10% off anything at streakersports.com with discount code BROAD.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. So listen, friends of the show, right? The guys at the Drunk Phil's fans, the guys that we've connected with on some shows, had something really cool going on. It's really cool to see their story getting covered. So long story short, they find the guy, if I'm reading the article correctly, right, the guy Chris, who we've done some shows with, finds Connie Mack's gravesite, and it's looking kind of funky. So he puts some stuff out on social media, organizes a couple of guys to get together. Some people couldn't make it, volunteered some materials. But they go out and they basically take care and they clean up Connie Mack's grave, the headstone, the whole piece. Man, just a huge shout out to those guys, because it was and then on the back end there's an article with Matt Breen that gets covered. So just huge shout out to those guys. Eric, I'm not sure if did you catch that coming across social media at all?
Yeah, I did actually. I saw I saw the Twitter, posting a lot about it and everything like that. And then I did read the article from Matt Breen. I think, was it yesterday it came out? Yes. I did read that. So yeah, I mean, really cool story. Unique story, right? I mean, the fact they were able to find that. And apparently I think one of, someone brought it to Chris's attention because someone's family members are buried near Connie Mack's grave, and they saw it. So I think it was a pretty cool story that they went ahead and did that. Because whether he was had anything to do with the Phillies or not, or Philadelphia baseball, right? I mean, he was a huge part of it. So right. While he was affiliated with the Athletics at the time, still a really cool story for them to do something like that.
Yeah, just they're kind of they're on the forefront of kind of doing. They do a great job at the community service part of some of their fan group. In the fall when the whole thing happens with the Temple police officer, they had their T-shirts. They were donating the profits to the family. So just huge shout out to those guys. If you haven't had a chance, go over and read the Matt Breen article from the Inquirer. Just a huge shout out to them. But great that they're getting the not that they're doing it for the publicity, but good that it's being recognized and that it brings kind of the attention back to the connection of the history of this franchise that goes further back than the Phillies. But yeah, just a cool story that kind of got the coverage that it kind of deserved. And if you see the before and after pictures,
yeah, it's pretty drastic.
They did a phenomenal job. And to speak of the A's, did you hear Rob Manfred speak about the A's? And so I was going to save this for final thoughts, but I'm not. A huge shout out to the A's fan base, right? Because the A's fan base has been petitioning for this team to get new stadium, upgraded facilities, and the city of Oakland has kind of like wavered back and forth. The city of Oakland is about to lose their third professional franchise, right? The Warriors used to play in a stadium in Oakland. They're now playing in a new facility in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
The Raiders used to play in that same stadium and are now playing at a brand new facility in Las Vegas.
Yep.
The A's are about to follow them to Las Vegas to a multi-billion-dollar facility that's going to be built essentially right on the Strip.
Mm-hmm.
And the A's are about that fan base that has a rich history in baseball and football. It gives that franchise, like that city, you're basically ripping I can't imagine, if it were us and we lost all of our professional franchises within a matter of 5 years, and for him to handle it the way that he did. He essentially. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, right? Because it's so frustrating. But the A's fans basically organize like a reverse protest, and they try to sell out, and get as many people in for a game. So I'm almost sure it was the last game before the Phillies series started.
Yeah, it was.
And then Rob Manfred comes out with these comments and basically says like, it was great to see them have attendance really close to the major league average for one game. Oh, well, I was meeting with I wasn't there because I was with the owners. And I'm going, could you be more of an asshole about it?
Yeah, just so condescending. Like I've never really liked Manfred since he's become the commissioner. I will say, some of the new rules that are put in place, I kind of like, but that was just so condescending. And what a way to say it. I mean, like you said, the A's fans have absolutely really nothing to do with this other than the fact that they've been screwed by terrible ownership in Oakland. And it's just, I thought that was just like appalling for him to say that. But yeah, it stinks for A's fans, right? I mean, you made a point. Like, I don't think Philly fans would let that happen. I think we'd block all the roads so the teams couldn't get out of town. Like, I just can't even imagine.
We'd be doing other things than not having access to 95.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the roads would be shut down.
Oh God. It's just, it's so frustrating. So frustrating to see and frustrating for that fan base, because I put myself in their shoes, right? And, I'm sure that there are people that are diehard Oakland fans that essentially are like, I can't even go see my team anymore because none of my quote unquote teams actually play here anymore.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. It's tough. And I don't know. I mean, I guess they're close enough to San Francisco, but it does stink. Like, cause you're probably rooting against those teams most of the time. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, like do you follow them to Las Vegas? Do you pick a new team? What do you do? I wouldn't know. Luckily we don't have to deal with that, but yeah, it's tough. And it's just not a situation that that I think is good for baseball, because I know they're talking about expansion teams too, and I know LA was on that list. Obviously, if the A's relocate there, they're gonna when they eventually do expand, that's now a city that won't need an expansion team. So it kind of affects a couple different things. So see what happens.
Yeah, and then someone obviously makes the connection right between Harper and Vegas, and asks him, if he ever envisions himself as a guy that would go back to Las Vegas to play. And the quote, I don't know if you saw the quote, but the quote
I saw
is
one of my favorite quotes
is epic Bryce Harper, right? If I ever play there, that something really bad happened here, I hope I die in a Phillies jersey.
Yeah, that's going to be a t-shirt pretty soon, I'm sure.
Like, if that to me doesn't encapsulate what you have to do to be loved in this city, that is it right there, right? For a player to say, for a player to do something that a fan would do, because we've all seen and heard stories about fans, right, that say, listen, when I go, I want to go in all my gear.
Mm-hmm.
For him to say something like that, really, and it goes back to how much are you invested? If the fans feel like you're invested as much as they are, then it's a win-win, right? Because you look at guys in other sports, right? Jason Kelce is another guy like this, right? Who just kind of wears all of his emotions on his sleeve and basically just says I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, and everything is emblematic of the city. That to me, I saw that, and it just means so much to know that a guy like this is playing in a city with us.
Yeah. And, part of the whole signing process for Harper was, he wanted to play for, a specific team. The money, I think, was a big part of it. He said, I want to settle down somewhere. I want my kids to, grow up somewhere. And the fact that he picked Philadelphia, I think, in the beginning, there was a lot of pandering. I think he knew how to do that really well, and his PR team may have helped him, help win over Phillies fans. But he also just does it on the field too, the way he plays. He's always playing hard. Sometimes, with the elbow thing right now, sometimes I'm like, all right, buddy, calm down a little bit. But I mean, he's a prototypical Philly athlete, and it's great to have that and him kind of be maybe not a vocal leader on the team, but just kind of show okay, this is what you need to do to win over Philly sports fans.
I just love it. I love the player that he is, but it's so emblematic of the city that it's we appreciate, and that's what we appreciate as fans. We want somebody who is invested in this city as much as we are, right?
Yep,
and sometimes with as transient as players are, and as much as those contracts, allow them to kind of move around, to see a guy who wanted to be here long term, didn't want to be in a situation where he had to make a choice to move. It just made that to me just means the world as a fan. Now to go on to a different player who's really playing exceptionally well. Talk to me about Shohei Ohtani, because we don't get to watch him nearly as much. I did catch the game the other night where he pitched. Man, he is uberly impressive. And then I'm gonna let you talk about it, and then I'm gonna read some stats in a minute.
Yeah, actually, I'm because I again, because of the the time difference and all that stuff, I don't get to see him play as much as I want. But anytime I get a chance, it's obviously one of those things where I think everyone has to realize we're watching something special with him. The fact that he can do it on both sides of the field, and is a legit MVP candidate, I think, every single year. Is just incredible. But yeah, he's so fun to watch. Now, I will say the one thing about this, whether you like the new schedule or not, the Angels do come to Philadelphia, I want to say at the end of August. So Phillies fans, you will have a chance to get down to the stadium and see him in person. So that'll be pretty cool. And definitely something,
see him and Mike Entrout. Yeah.
Yeah. So what stats did you have on him there?
All right.
I'm curious now.
So the Angels team leader, Ohtani is the Angels team leader in runs, hits, home runs, walks, RBIs, stolen bases, batting average, OBP, slugging percentage, on base percentage, wins, ERA, and strikeouts.
Wow. Yeah,
He is the team. Like what you are watching Babe Ruth. This when fans in the early 20s and 30s were watching Babe Ruth, this is what you were watching. And the shame of it is that it's happening on the West Coast where, and we've said this before, this team, I don't care how bad their statistics are, should have multiple national games a month. They should be playing on Fox on Saturday afternoons as much as they can. They should be playing on Sunday Night Baseball as much as they can. Because you're seeing these two guys that are playing electrically well in their prime, and you never get to see them unless you – and listen, I wasn't going, oh, God, the Angels are playing the Rangers. Let me tune in. I was literally just scrolling through, and they were on the MLB network. And I was like, I don't get to watch these guys much. I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going, all right, I'm stuck. I'm here for the next 3 hours. But to see a guy with that kind of statistical background and look and go, how do we not see this guy more often? It's a crime. And it's the primary reason why when he's got the chance to move, I guarantee you he's moving to a major league franchise that has a much more, a more prominent fan base, but two, more notoriety, more visibility, where you're going to get to see him much more often. And I wouldn't be surprised if MLB orchestrates that.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that. I also think, what his contract is going to be is going to price him out of so many different cities, I know the Mets already said they're planning on making a play for him because they just have, an unlimited amount of money to spend. Right. You got to imagine the Yankees are going to make a play for him, right? New York would be, if he's in New York, you're going to see him all the time. I think I saw something. The Yankees have had like 8 national games in the last 2 weeks or something like that. And, so obviously there's the Yankees are, I feel like every time I turn on ESPN or Fox, it's always Yankees, Red Sox. And I don't want to watch it. So if he was there, that's a different story. But I think it just the amount of money he's going to command because, he's valuable in so many different ways is going to price a lot of different teams out of the market. And I don't want to rule him out from going back to Los Angeles. It's just a matter of, to the Angels. It's just a matter of, are they willing to open that checkbook and then build a team around him? Because they basically said they're going to do that for Trout, and it's not really coming to fruition here. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Now, the Dodgers could also could also be in play, right? Because that he could stay on the West Coast. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise. Here's a sleeper team that wouldn't surprise me: Seattle.
Yeah, because they're like so close to being good, and we saw it last year.
The connection that they have with Ichiro, right? The connection that they have with already establishing a fan base from that Ichiro era in that continent of Asia, right? You have that there's that kind of sleepy connection that, and you can put him on a team with, Julio Rodriguez and put those two back to back in the middle of that lineup, and makes it a little bit easier to build a franchise around.
Yeah, the Mariners pitching staff may be one of the best rotations in baseball this year, so that would certainly add to that too. I don't know if they have I guess they would have to figure something out just financially, just because I mean, I don't even know if $500 million is going to be enough. I mean, he's that valuable. I'm really curious to see what contract he gets, because it's going to be insane.
Maybe he's the first player that they offer. You're starting to see this, the equity stakes in the franchise. Yeah, you saw that with that, the Messi contract with Inter Milan, the Miami, where he essentially gets a salary, but he also gets a stake in the MLS and a stake in the Apple TV, TV broadcast. He's getting shares of all that. So it's like, when do you start to see that, where it's like maybe a team can't leverage salary, but maybe they can use leverage in terms of offering that equity in a franchise?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I never really thought about that in baseball. But I mean, if contracts keep going the way they are, I mean,
there's only so many times you can offer $500 million to a guy.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's going to set that precedent. And then, okay, in 10 years, that's going to be, I think, relatively, affordable. So who knows? Just the way the market seems to kind of be going here for baseball. Because when Harper signed, everyone's like, wow, that's so much money. But really his overall annual average value isn't, backbreaking. I think it's only high 20s when it comes to, how much he's getting paid per year. So, we see other contracts that are way, way more financially friendly to the player at this point. So, right. And that was only a few years ago. So we'll see what happens in even more time.
See what happens. Here we go. Final thoughts. What do you got going out the door?
Let's get the sweep today going into the off day. I think, that we need to have that momentum going into playing Atlanta. It's going to be a tough series. So, and really it's going to be a tough week because we have, the Braves and Mets. So, even though the Mets are, as you said, Metting right now, they're, they have the potential to be a good team still. And there's nothing more satisfying than beating the Mets, especially since, we're probably going to roll into this at some point, especially since we're going to be there on next Saturday. So it'd be nice to see a win then. But so
listen, part of final thoughts, right? The K-Lot tailgate with, Fired Up Sports, the Bell Smashers, the Carter Hot Media, and the Drunk Phils fans. The K-Lot tailgate is going to be in place on Saturday, June 24th. So this Saturday from 11 to 3. It's a BYO, whatever you want. So you want to bring food, great. You want to bring beer, you want to bring booze, whatever you want to bring. From 11 to 3, we're just going to kind of be in that K-Lot tailgate and hanging out. And then, if you already have tickets, great. If you want to buy a bunch of us bought standing room tickets, we'll probably go in and just kind of walk around, hang out. It should be a great time and a good place to connect with people that are all kind of doing the same thing. And they're also playing the Mets. So fuck the Mets. So we can get that taken care of. And then, just a huge happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Whatever kind of father role you play in someone's life, happy Father's Day. That Father's Day tag is it can be a broad tag. So whatever role you play as a father figure, just huge shout out for Father's Day. Gentlemen, it was good. We will check in with everybody on the way out, but we will we'll check in probably in about a couple weeks, but enjoy your summer, get outside, and we will talk to you next time. Take care.
Yep. See you guys. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
This is the Broad Street Line, where Philly sports fans leave all of their sports hot takes. Call 267-405-3062 and show us your passion for Philly sports. Don't forget to tune in every Wednesday at 8:30 when we listen to your live reactions to the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the Fightins here. The Fightins. Said.
Should